In this video, I'm going to cover everything that you need to know and do in order to smash your UCAT. In this video, I'm going to cover when to start, how to get better, how to answer questions, how to get better at answering questions, different shortcuts you can use, things that you need to know about each section. I'm going to go into in detail about each section and situational judgment. And I've got advice from students who have got very, very high scores at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. Or just skip to it and watch it if you want, but you might want to learn how to do the UCAT. So you probably know what the UCAT is. If not, you need to do it for medicine or dentistry. It's the one exam that majority of universities take. I know some unis take the BMAT. I did the BMAT as well when I was applying for dentistry at Leeds. I know that they don't do it no more, but you might need to do the BMAT as well. Just make sure you know what you're doing. When starting the UCAT, it may feel like the hardest exam you've ever done, and that's fine. Everyone feels like that. Trust me, it gets easier. So how long do you need? This is like something that a lot of people debate about. I think you need anywhere between 4 weeks to about 6 weeks to revise. More than that, it's probably going to lead to you burning out. The week before my exam, I was doing much better than I did actually on the day of the exam. And a lot of people do feel like that. So if you've never touched anything to do the UCAT, the first thing you're going to do is go on the free UCAT website. They got 3 questions for you. And just go do a test and see what grade you're working at or what level you're working at. This just helps familiarize you with the UCAT so you know what the questions are like, what to expect when you actually go into revising. But eventually you are going to have to buy a resource. Now, I didn't pay for a lot of resources when I was applying, but for revision of the UCAT was something that I paid for. Medify and Medentry are the one that majority of people use. If you want to buy Medentry, I've got a link below in the description. If you use that, it'll just help me out a bit. You don't have to use it. If you want to use Medify, go use it. So it's up to you which one you want to use. During my time applying, I remember a lot of people were using Medify, but now a lot of people are saying that Medentry is better. Thing about these websites is that they have little sections and like topic questions for you to do. So you can do little mini tests of each section, and you can also do big tests of each section, and you can just do massive tests of the whole thing. So it's got as many questions as you need to do well in the UCAT. So what you need to do is watch YouTube videos on people actually answering the questions or teaching you how to answer the questions. By learning how to answer the questions, each question has different the strategies and techniques and tactics that you can use to answer these questions that will make it so much easier for you. So just learn these tactics and write them down. Watch YouTube videos on it. Just have the tactics on a piece of paper that you can always go back to. This is something that I personally found making my UCAT preparation much easier. It was just having this like sheet of different strategies and tactics that you can use to answer questions. And I just tried multiple ones to see which ones actually worked for me. Okay, so you do need to answer some questions. You do need to practice in order to get well. But how are you going to answer questions? First, you need to start off by answering questions without a timer. This just helps you get used to the question and familiarize yourself with what the questions are like and how you find them. The time is the hardest part of the UCAT, just trying to fit everything in. But trust me, start off without a time just so you can get used to it, and then you'll implement the time later. Then move on to doing timed questions. Now, you don't have to be fully confident in yourself to do timed questions, but just do it to see how much you can actually answer. A lot of this UCAT practice is like trial and error, so until you understand what you're actually doing, and then about 2 to 3 weeks at the end is going to be just full on doing what you know, just test after test after test. Now, during this time when you're transitioning from just no timed questions to timed questions, all this time together, your scores are going to be bad. Don't expect to be getting high scores of 700, 2,800, etc. Your scores are going to be bad. Don't let this demotivate you. Every single person who has been revising for the UCAT has been getting bad scores during this time. It's okay. What I used to do was watch someone do this practice questions on YouTube just to see like what example questions they do, how they go about answering it, see if I can answer the questions. And then after watching some of them videos, I'll go onto Medify and I'll just do a little section. They have little section exams, and I'll just do little section exam of that to see how I'm doing. Now the thing is, some days you might get good scores and other days the score's just going to drop and you're going to be thinking that you got worse. You haven't, that's normal. Scores do fluctuate, but you should be on a gradual rise. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how you can schedule your revision on a daily basis to do well in the UCAT. I know it's your summer holiday and you have all this time off, but you do need to put about 3.5 hours into the UCAT every day for the final 3 weeks, I'll say 3 to 4 weeks. The way you're going to schedule these 3.5 hours is every single day you're going to do half an hour of situational judgment. For me, situational judgment was the easiest part, and I'll get on to how you can get better than that later in the video. But for me, situational judgment felt like a little break. For a lot of people, it does feel like a little break at the end. It's not as intense as the other sections. So I used to do this half an hour towards the end of my revision of the day. So I was like, okay, the revision's coming to the end. All I have to do is situational judgment, and I got the rest of the day off. But then that means you got another 3 hours a day that you're meant to schedule. What I used to do in 3 hours was split it into 2 90-minute chunks, so hour and a half, and it would just be, for example, if we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Monday, I'll do abstract reasoning, verbal reasoning, situational judgment. Next day will be quantitative reasoning, decision making, situational judgment. So over 2 days, I'll cover everything. In that hour and a half, what you're going to do is watch 30 minutes of videos or just people answering questions, seeing how they answer it, learning different tactics, different strategies. And this hour left is just going to be questions. So just a summary is 3.5 hours a day, hour and a half, half an hour. Hour and a half is going to be half an hour videos, 1 hour questions, half an hour video, 1 hour questions, and then 30 minutes of situational judgment. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the shortcuts that you can use in the UCAT. This is going to help you answer the questions faster, get through questions faster, and just fit everything in the time. So they'll be on screen. The first one is Alt-N, which is next. You got Alt-F, which flags the question, and Alt-C, which is calculator. I suggest you practice these in Medify and Medentry beforehand, just so you can get used to it. Here's how I got band 1 in situational judgment. So what you need to do is put yourself in that situation, learn the GMC guidelines and learn the GDC guidelines. So what these are is the guidelines that dentists and medics have to go by. So therefore, any question, any scenario they ask you, if you go by these guidelines, you're doing what a dentist and a doctor will do. So therefore, you're going to get the question right. Also learn the pillars of ethics. So I'm going to have the pillars of ethics on screen right now so you can see it for yourself. But make sure you learn these. A lot of the questions that you get are going to be ethical scenarios. Therefore, you need to know how to act in that situation. And the best thing you do in these situations is just look at the GDC or GMC guidelines, look at the pillars of ethics, and then put it all into one in that situation, and you're going to get the question right. First time doing abstract reasoning, it might feel like it's the hardest thing ever, but trust me, this is going to be your best section. It's going to be your easiest section. When doing the abstract reasoning questions, make sure you write down the patterns that are there. These patterns are repeated. And especially if there's any patterns that you get wrong, make sure you put a section for the patterns that you got wrong and the patterns that you got right, just so you can see. How to answer the abstract reasoning questions is to most of the time just look at the easiest, most simplest box and then look at the second most simplest box. So you have the least stuff to look at, so you can see what they all having see what they have similar. And what you're going to learn is to use scans, which is just an abbreviation, which stands for shape, color, arrangement, number, and size. Personally, when I was in arrangement, I used to overthink it a lot. So make sure when you're doing arrangement, you don't overthink it. Verbal reasoning was my worst section. If you're good at reading, then this is probably going to be better for you. What I did was I made sure I didn't waste time on this section. If there was a long text, I'll usually just skip it. I'll try getting the shorter text right and then go on to the longer ones. And in verbal reasoning, something I did was scan for the key dates in the text. So just look for any dates or anything that I mentioned, because there might be a question on it. Decision making, similar to abstract reasoning, a lot of the topics are the same. So make note of the ones that you get wrong, because they're gonna come up again. For quantitative reasoning, there's a lot of stuff you need to know beforehand before actually doing the exam. What I'm gonna have on screen is all the equations that you need to know. So these are equations that are not given to you, so it's best to learn these beforehand. I know they're simple equations, but it's just good to know it so you can actually use it in the test. So take a screenshot of this or just write it down just so you have it. So now I'm going to give you some advice that I've got some of my friends, followers, people that have got some high scores in their UCAT, just to see what they say about it. So this person got 735, 2,940. And the tips that he gives me are: dip your toe in it beforehand, nothing serious, just a little taster. Actually understand what each section is about and why they are testing you on it and the skills it shows. Then a month beforehand, just bang it out. So what he's saying is actually understand the UCAT beforehand, just see what it is, and then for about a month, just bang out questions. And he got 735, 2,940. This person got 2,880, 720. That UCAT isn't like an IQ test. It's not something that is always going to be the same. It's something that you can actually improve at, but with practice. You can use strategies and you have to implement them. So make sure you learn how to implement the strategies. So this person got 630 in the first time, and the second time they did it, they got 720. So you can see the massive improvement there is. So there is space for improvement. You just have to practice. This person got 787.5 average, so 3,150. They said use Medentry, not Medify, and give yourself a minimum of 4 weeks. By the way, my Medentry link is below, or my code. This person got 3,110, which is 777.5. They say that question books are useless. Don't start too early and learn the keyboard shortcuts and actually practice using a keyboard. This other person got 2,800, and their tips are to focus on 2 sections to smash, and then on the other 2 sections just get 600 plus. For verbal reasoning, focus on the modern text and try to get them right. Guess the rest. Learn the calculator shortcuts for quantitative reasoning and don't overthink situational judgment. The patterns that you get wrong in abstract reasoning, write it down. This could make a big difference, and it said that for him it made a big difference. You still have time to do well in the UCAT. The test does become much easier. Your scores are going to start off low. They will get better. Sometimes you are going to get low scores. Sometimes you're going to get very high scores. And that's okay. Make sure you apply to uni strategically. Depending on whatever your UCAT score is, some unis don't prioritize the UCAT. Therefore, if you do bad in your UCAT, apply to the unis that don't prioritize it. Some have a requirement. They say, as long as you get this score, you can get in. I got in with 2,490. Plymouth at the time, I think their requirement was like 2,400 or something. So not every uni has 2,400 requirement, but because Plymouth had it, I knew that, and I knew that my UCAT reaches that, so I applied there. Make sure you look on UCAS, email the unis, call the unis, ask them what their requirements are. Some unis just focus just on UCAT, some don't focus on it at all. It's just up to you which ones you apply to. So even if you flop the UCAT, there's still a possibility of you getting into medicine and dentistry, so don't worry about it. But just keep practicing and you are going to get better, and hopefully the test goes good for you.